because you can see the excitement of majority leader on the matter. I want to congratulate Senator John Medu, one of our youngest senators in the House, for proving time and again that he is equal to the task. And we are very proud that as a young senator, one of the youngest senator, Madam Speaker, he continues to demonstrate good leadership skills both in the committee and in the mediation. And it shows the confidence of the House leadership led by the majority leader to assign him to such very serious tasks. I want to, secondly, to mention water is life, Madam Speaker. We normally say that. Water is critical, water is important. But the sad story is that accessibility of water here in Nairobi or any other parts is still a challenge, especially in eastern, northeastern, and Nairobi, Madam Speaker. And I said last time that there is no difference, Madam Speaker, between access to water of people in northern Kenya and eastern and Nairobi. Because Nairobi, it comes like a doctor's appointment. You are never sure when water will be available in our taps. And I think this is a big challenge. And when we get legislative interventions led by the Senator Medu's committee to try and come up with such, we don't take it for granted. Madam Speaker, let me begin with a clause number 11, where the National Assembly wanted Water Sector Trust Fund to include, yet it is counties, Senator has explained very well, that fund this Water Sector Trust Fund. It is critical because these Water Sector Trust Funds, Madam Speaker, are used for water and sanitation. Madam Speaker, the projection, for example, in Kapsabet town, we have over 87,000 population. Yet we depend water supply that is being pumped through electricity and generator, Madam Speaker. Because we are still waiting to have establishment of Keben Dam, Madam Speaker, that will ensure there is access to water to Kapsabet town. Madam Speaker, the reason I'm making this point is under United Nations Population Fund, in 2020, there is an massive movement of rural urban, Madam Speaker. And therefore, it is very critical in access of water. There are many upcoming towns, especially in our counties. Wherever you come, for example, in Nandi, we have almost 10 upcoming trading centers, all the way in 6 sub-counties in Nandi. For example, and this growth,
what's your point of
continues
order, Senator Hamida?
Madam Speaker, under Standing Order 41, I think this is an important matter in terms of water, Madam Speaker, and I can see we don't have quorum. Important.
Clerk, can you confirm quorum? Let's have the quorum bell ring for 10 minutes.
We need to remove.
Well, we now have the quorum bell at the Senate on ring mode after Senator Hamida Kibwana stood on Standing Orders number 41 to notify the Speaker that the House did not have the requisite quorum to continue with the debate on the report of the Mediation Committee on the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 33 of the year 2023, according to the Senator. The issue of water is a crucial aspect in the country and ought to be debated when the House has quorum. And guided by the standing orders of the Senate, the Speaker at the moment, Senator Veronica Maina, has directed that the quorum bell be rung for 10 minutes so that senators within the presence of Parliament can make their way back to the chamber to the necessitation of the quoration of the House to continue with the debate. The debate on the floor is a report of the Mediation Committee on Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 33 of the year 2023. And why is it a report of the Mediation Committee is by the mere fact that the House selected some of its members to sit with their counterparts at the National Assembly to come up with a mediated version of the report on matters Water Amendment Bill. Let's now have a look at the Water Amendment Bill number 23. It is an act of Parliament seeking to amend the Water Act of 2016 to provide for the public-private partnership arrangements for the connected purposes. So in case you're wondering what the Water Amendment Bill number 33 of the year 2023 seeks to achieve, this bill seeks to, among others, provide for powers and functions of waterworks development agencies, which shall be to undertake the development, maintenance, and management of the national public waterworks within the areas of their jurisdictions. The water development agencies are also set to operate the waterworks and provide water services as water service providers until such a time as the responsibility for the operation and management of waterworks are handed over to the county government's joint committees, authority of the county government, or water service providers within the area of their jurisdiction or supply of the waterworks are located. The Waterworks Development Agency is equally required to provide a reserve capacity for the purposes of providing water services, where pursuant to sections 103, the regulatory board orders that there is transfer of water services functions from the defaulting water service providers to other licensees. Well, the Senate this afternoon, the members of the Senate have been making their ways back into the chamber this afternoon to allow the House raise quorum to continue with the debate on the report of the Mediation Committee on the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 33 of the year 2023. Allow me to hand you over back to the chamber.
Right away. So Senator Chiradige, take the floor. Please give him the mic.
Madam Speaker, I just want to make 4 points on this mediated version of the water bill. I was on clause number 11, where we were saying that this water trust sector trust fund should remain with counties. Madam Speaker, because most of the funding comes from the counties, and I was just informing the House that, Madam Speaker, with the affordable housing program of the government, now we need water and sanitation, Madam Speaker. I can give you statistics in the benefit of the House that according to the Population Kenya Bureau of Statistics, in 2023 we had more than 16,265,693 Kenyans in urban areas, Madam Speaker, and this was an increase of 3.81%, because in 2022 we have close to 15.6 million Kenyans that were in urban areas. So it means access to water and sanitation will become very critical, and therefore the intention of National Assembly to thin the water trust fund was very unfortunate, but I'm happy that they agreed with our proposal that since most of the funding that goes to water sector trust funds should remain with counties, and therefore it is very critical. Even, for example, even in my own Kapsabet town has only a population of 87,000, but access to water is very challenging. The last time water project was launched was during Charity Ngilu when she was the minister, and we are using water, we are using electricity and generator, Madam Speaker. We are depending on Keben water project, which the government should start, and also what we call, Madam Speaker, Kipkaren Dam that is almost to completion, that will feed water to Mosoria town and Kabie town, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and therefore this is very important. Clause number 12 on the water tribunal, it is not gainsaid. I want to agree, Madam Speaker, that it is very critical that you cannot choose your judge. I agree with the decision of both the National Assembly and the Senate that you cannot choose members who will sit in water tribunal because they will become biased. The aspect of neutrality should be very critical in water tribunal, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on clause number 6, I agree in the issue of waterworks. Both clause 6 and 7, as I conclude, Madam Speaker, is we should have a handing over. I said yesterday, Waterworks Development Authority, WDDS, Madam Speaker. Like, for example, Nandi, we are under Lake Victoria North Waterworks, Madam Speaker. But when you see most projects go to Kakamega and Viga, yet Nandi, we don't benefit. Even on the issue of, Madam Speaker, of even drilling boreholes in schools and urban centers, these waterworks, Madam Speaker, should be regulated properly. And in fact, when we say WASREP, even in water tariffs, I have seen there is a proposal to have what we call private-public partnership, Madam Speaker, in terms of water. And therefore, even on the issue of water bulk sale agreements, we must give the regulator WASREP, Madam Speaker, so that water tariffs. And I said yesterday, I want to repeat, when you go to a place called Japas in Mexico, Madam Speaker, it is where the most of the Coca-Cola is consumed. Because there, Coca-Cola is more cheaper than water. If our country, we will have more expensive, Madam Speaker, where we have water more expensive than other beverages, that what Majority Leader referred to, some of the favorite drinks of some of the individuals in the House, then that society collapses, Madam Speaker, because clean access water. And when you go to Chiapas in Mexico, and it is
Senator
on record.
Chiradige, are you aware that the Honorable Majority Leader was asked to withdraw the reference to those drinks?
Madam Speaker, but only on the word changa, but replace it with a favorite drink. I thought that was and the Speaker allowed it. I have said, Madam Speaker, favorite drink. Everybody has a favorite drink, including Senator Eddy and even Senator Chute. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, and therefore, even in the water tariffs, in conclusion, is we must have WASREP as a regulator. So that, Madam Speaker, you can see there are so many water tankers in the city. It is very expensive for families. And you remember, Madam Speaker, 60% of households spend on food. Food being part of domestic water that used for drink. Madam Speaker, are you aware, or the House should be aware, that the moment you have people accessing not very clean water, Madam, there will be many diseases. What that one translates, Madam Speaker, there will be use of treatment. What does mean drugs? What does it mean? It means that there will be use of a lot of resources to treat treatable diseases by consuming clean water, Madam Speaker. On waterworks, Madam Speaker, I want to say it is very important, especially on waterworks, that waterworks must, I agree they can run Carmenu, they can run Tuaga Dam, they can run what do we call Itare, Posta, Keben, Sondu, Two Rivers, wherever the dams are, Madam Speaker. But the issue of last mile, and I want to thank the committee, Madam Speaker, members should listen to this. The issue of last mile should be left to the counties. The county should be the ones that should do the last mile distribution of water at that point in time, Madam Speaker. So this mediated version, Madam Speaker, and in line with that, Madam Speaker, is very critical, the issue of water. I request that we agree on this mediated of the water bill 2023, Madam Speaker, by agreeing that all of us, we must have a discussion on the basis, Madam Speaker, going into the future. And Madam Speaker, just in conclusion, to call upon members, Madam Speaker, that I'm happy in conclusion that Senator Amida is back because we really supported a statement on the issue of health. You know, when you consume water that is not safe, you become sick. When you become sick, you go to the hospital. When you go to the hospital, you become, the budget of running hospital is expensive, Madam Speaker. Therefore, even as we continue in the spirit of access to medical care and access to clean water, Madam Speaker, we also continue to condemn, Madam Speaker, the issue of femicide that looks to be coming back. You have seen there are many deaths, Madam Speaker, that is happening, that is unexplained across the country. I saw in Isili, Madam Speaker, even as they struggle to look for the MC of Shell Award in Wajir County, who unfortunately the DNA gave negative, that it was not him. There is unexplained deaths that is happening, and I want to call upon DCI and the police to fast track and investigate so that Kenyans can know what is really happening, Madam Speaker. More so when it happens to women, we don't take it for granted because we know women are very critical and important, and no one should lose their life, Madam Speaker. I hope the Inspector General of Police is listening, the DCI, the DIG and IS, and all other. And I want to ask Kenyans wherever they are, Madam Speaker, especially our young ladies, never go with somebody you are not sure of. As I condole with the MCA who lost the daughter here in Tika, the MCA from Kirinyaga, Madam Speaker, we want to ask our girls, be careful. Don't just be excited what you see in TikTok. Don't just date somebody you are not sure of. Can you do background check? I'm not saying the girls and women should be DCI, Madam Speaker, but at least they should do what we call due diligence before being taken out, Madam Speaker. They need to take care of themselves. The police cannot police everybody. Madam Speaker, and we are tired of losing young. I'm happy there is a breakthrough. Another girl who was found here in Mwigi. Suspects have been arrested, Madam Speaker. But we want to ask our girls and ladies, just be careful, be sure the person you are dating, Madam Speaker. Especially you should date more of Christian men or Muslim men. But those who go Kupati, Madam Speaker, you should be careful with them. And I know Senator Karen Nyamo, Madam Speaker, is happy because there is a new song called Liani, and she should tell us what it means. Anyway, I want to support, Madam Speaker, the mediated version.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei. Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Mediation Committee on the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 33 of 2023, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 22nd October 2024, and further pursuant to Article 113(2) of the Constitution and Standing Order 167(3) of the Senate, approves the mediated version of the bill. The motion is free for debate, and I'll call upon senators who will contribute to this motion. Senator Wamatinga Wahome, Nyeri County.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I did sit in the Mediation Committee, and I'm a member of the committee, standing committee. Indeed, Madam Speaker, the issue of water and scarcity and the reticulation has remained quite a major challenge in this country. That being the case, Madam Speaker, the committee from the Senate and the National Assembly sat together and in the spirit of one nation and one approach, we did thrash out the issues that we had, and fully aware that matters of water affect county governments. We realize that it is imperative that we agree on a way to move it forward. It is not lost to us, Madam Speaker, that there are counties that are nationally disadvantaged because they are in a geographical location that puts them at disadvantage. We are also fully aware, Madam Speaker, that there are counties that draw water from other counties, and therefore the existence of Waterworks Development Agency provides an infrastructure within which you can be able to aggregate multiple counties so that economies of scale in the implementation of water solutions can be achieved. Madam Speaker, the mediated version of the water bill allows the government, both at the national and the county level, to put their effort together, to pull resources together, and ensure that most of the counties that do not have water, or those do not have enough potable water, do have access. Madam Speaker, it is known to everybody that we did promise in the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government to ensure that people get access to water. And the only way, Madam Speaker, because of the limited balance sheet of the country and a lot of money that have been borrowed by the previous regimes, our balance sheet will not be able to support infrastructure development in the water sector. And it is in this spirit, Madam Speaker, that none other than the President himself came up with the idea of getting a kind of a paradigm shift in the way we do implementation of the project, and therefore came up with the idea of making water a tradable commodity that can be handled within public-private partnership. To ensure that that's doable, Madam Speaker, it is imperative that we have laws in place that ensures that the water harvested in reservoirs and reticulated to households can be accounted for. Madam Speaker, it worries me that some counties have as high as 70% non-revenue water. That is water that has been collected, water that has been dispatched through the master meter, but it cannot be accounted for because of the old infrastructure that we have. We know some of the counties, Madam Speaker, will not be on their own be able to put the reticulation systems together. And therefore, it is important that the national government, in collaboration with the county government, come up with a systematic approach that will ensure that the infrastructure is renewed, and most importantly, moving forward and moving with the technology, we come up with a smart meters, smart and intelligent water reticulation system, water leakage systems, as is with gas and oil pipeline. Madam Speaker, if we achieve this, it would mean that in some counties we would save up to 70% of the water that they harvest. We know that in the wake of the climate change, Madam Speaker, our rivers and our groundwater is reducing day by day. This, Madam Speaker, calls us to ensure that we have a new approach, to ensure that we have a more pragmatic approach that will ensure that the water that we harvest is not only used prudently, but also account for each and every drop. Madam Speaker, it is also not lost to us that most households still use untreated water, water that is not fit for human consumption. That being the case, Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to highlight how we can approach this, and most importantly, this enhanced and kind of renegotiated and mediated bill ensures that the issues that were raising challenges have been addressed. But Madam Speaker, as a country, the biggest challenge that we must face in water reticulation, especially in counties like those lies in the northern part of Kenya and the coastal region of Kenya, Madam Speaker, it's because they do not have the advantage that the counties that are in central region and in the mountain areas and other water catchment areas like the Rift Valley have. And that being the case, Madam Speaker, it is the responsibility of every county, it is the responsibility of every citizen of this country to ensure that every drop of water that we can put our hand on is used properly. Madam Speaker, how can that be achieved? We know counties like Nairobi, Thika, and other counties surrounding the big rivers that flows into the ocean, they have been heavily contaminated by affluent discharge into the rivers. And that is why, Madam Speaker, as the Kenya Kwanza regime assumed power, we formed the Nairobi River Commission that was supposed to handle the issue of water pollution, to handle the issue of river contamination, and most importantly, to ensure that the riparian area is protected so that we can not only protect life, but also ensure that most of the diseases that are caused by the pathogens that are transported by water are addressed. Madam Speaker, it is also not lost to us. Most of the counties that lie in the lower part of the country do have a lot of disadvantage. As much as all the rivers flows into the ocean, by the time the water gets into those counties, it is heavily contaminated. And therefore, Madam Speaker, coming up with a way of changing that approach requires laws that are not only dynamic, but laws that also address issues of how we use our water, how we discharge the affluent, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, how we treat that water before it is put for consumption. Therefore, Madam Speaker, promoting bulky water supply in multiple counties must be looked into. And I'm happy, Madam Speaker, to note that there is an intention by the current government to construct the High Grand Falls Dam that will have multipurpose function. One, it will address the perennial floods that affect the lower counties, like the Tana River. I can see Senator from there here is sitting here. Those counties that are on the lower side of the country, we know that every couple of years we lose lives, we lose property, because once the rivers burst their banks, then we have no control. By construction of the High Grand Falls Dam, which will also produce 1,000 megawatts of electricity, we will have solved that problem, one, by having the floods controlled, and two, by having additional supply of 1,000 megawatts of reliable electricity. On top of that, we'll have multiple counties enjoying the water for irrigation. Madam Speaker, embracing modern technology and also in promoting the issue of governance, that has been one of the biggest challenges. Why is that so, Madam Speaker? Most of these waterworks development agencies, including the water service providers, they have been run by kind of a family kind of approach where the governors in most counties, they do not even know what happens, and therefore, we must also put into place structures and systems to ensure that we do not only account for the water that have been harvested and reticulated, but also to ensure that transparency and governance is written in capital letter. The spirit of the bill, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that moving forward, water becomes a tradable commodity, one, and two, to ensure that we have responsible boards that are manning these water service providers. But as we do that, Madam Speaker, it should not be lost to us that some of these water service providers are too small that they cannot achieve economies of scale. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I like the approach that the previous Minister of Water, before she moves to land head, of consolidating some of these water service providers so that we can achieve economies of scale. Madam Speaker, some counties are also in themselves small that they cannot be able to accommodate the large dams, or they do not even have that natural resources of putting those dams together. Therefore, Madam Speaker, once we construct the reservoirs upstream, then there is a duty to ensure that the reticulation, we do not lose the water that we transport to those counties. But as we do that, Madam Speaker, it must also be here and emphasized that the governance issue has become and must become one of the major challenges that we must address. Madam Speaker, we as the senators have the obligation and the duty of promoting devolution. As we do that, Madam Speaker, our role to oversight the county governments, our role to oversight the water service providers, our role to oversight the waterworks development agencies must be promoted. This, Madam Speaker, will ensure that when we harvest water, Madam Speaker, it is not only stored, but also used in such a manner that it will promote life. Madam Speaker, water in this country, in some counties, is a very scarce commodity. But we also know that in those very same counties where we have scarcity of water, every time we have heavy rainfall, we have a lot of flooding that causes a lot of damages. Therefore, Madam Speaker, to be able to address that, as we talk of our target of planting the 15 billion trees, we must also come up with a concept of creating both localized storage and also storage that will ensure that we have enough water. Madam Speaker, as I support this bill, I would also want to say that it is also the high time, and I remember one of the motions I moved when I came into this House is application of smart technologies in usage of water. We know, Madam Speaker, in most of these Western countries, the taps will give water and will let the water run so long as there is someone there. These sensor motions and mostly also leak detection system, Madam Speaker,